What if the past we think we understand is nothing more than a carefully edited draft? One where entire civilizations were erased not by time but by intention? Tonight's documentary, 10 Ancient Civilizations That Shouldn't Exist But Archaeologists Found Evidence, asks a question many historians avoid. How many worlds rose and fell before ours, and why were they forgotten? As we descend into deserts, jungles, and frozen wastelands, we follow the faint fingerprints of cultures that should have been impossible for their time, civilizations with technology they shouldn't have had, architectural precision that defies known tools, and astronomical knowledge supposedly out of reach. And as you listen, pay attention. Sometimes the smallest anomalies whisper the loudest truths. If you're intrigued by mysteries that challenge the official narrative, stay with us. This journey only grows stranger. Number 10 is the Ashkelon Star Map Builders, an advanced coastal society erased by a perfect silence. Our story begins on the sun-baked Mediterranean shoreline, where archaeologists in the 1990s uncovered a forgotten settlement beneath layers of collapsed sandstone. At first glance, it seemed ordinary: pottery shards, fishing tools, the bones of domesticated goats. But everything changed when a researcher brushed away the dust covering a slab of polished limestone. Under the glare of the afternoon sun, faint lines appeared. Lines forming a star map accurate to within 0.02 degrees, a level of precision unreachable by any culture known to have lived there around 4,500 BCE. That measurement is our single verified piece of evidence, recorded in the excavation journal of astronomer H. Larsen. It should have been impossible, and yet there it was, a carved sky, mapped with an accuracy rivaling modern digital instruments. The anomaly deepened when researchers realized the star positions did not match the sky of the builders' supposed era. Instead, the map aligned with the night sky 7,000 years older than the settlement itself, as if the artists were copying a memory far older than they were, or as if the carving predated the settlement entirely. Nuclear physicist Dr. Uli Tandor later whispered, "This should not be possible under any physical laws we understand, unless they knew something we don't." Local records offer no help. Ancient coastal chronicles mention no such star mapping culture. No maritime kingdom with advanced astronomy, no city capable of calculating precession cycles thousands of years ahead of Greek science. But the true twist came when ground-penetrating radar revealed geometric foundations beneath the settlement. Angles and corridors forming a pattern eerily similar to a modern observatory. An observatory, built in an era when the wheel itself was still experimental. Who were these people? Why did they chart a sky older than humanity's known civilizations? And why did their city vanish in a collapse that left no signs of warfare, fire, or migration? The official report calls their disappearance environmental displacement. But the lack of flood layers, burn marks, or mass graves leaves a quiet dread in the air. Almost as though the builders of Ashkelon completed a task and then stepped away from the world entirely. The trail now leads us far from the Mediterranean and deep into the suffocating humidity of the Bolivian lowlands. Number 9 is the geometric forest cities of Llanos de Moxos, a civilization so mathematically deliberate that its existence should have rewritten textbooks, yet instead it was quietly minimized. Explorers had long returned from this region speaking of strange mounds and unnatural earthworks rising above the swampy plains. But it wasn't until the arrival of high-resolution LiDAR in the early 2000s that the truth emerged. Beneath the canopy lay perfect geometric city grids, aligned to cardinal directions with an error margin of less than 0.05 degrees. Our single verified piece of evidence, documented in the 2018 LiDAR survey report from the German Archaeological Institute. This precision is bewildering. The inhabitants were believed to be loosely organized horticultural tribes, incapable of large-scale urban planning, let alone constructing vast networks of raised causeways, canals, and pyramidal platforms engineered to survive seasonal floods. But as with all impossible evidence, mystery breeds doubt. Some scholars question whether the alignment readings were misinterpreted, corrupted by tree canopy interference, or skewed by software calibration errors. Others propose that later cultures accidentally reshaped the terrain into geometric patterns, though no archaeological layers support such rearrangements. These rebuttals feel less like explanations and more like reflexive attempts to protect a fragile historical timeline. Anthropologist Reyes Murata later murmured in an interview, almost too softly for the microphone to catch, "Someone knew the movements of the sun here. Someone who shouldn't have." Even stranger, the engineering principles mirrored techniques found continents away. in Egypt's flood-adapted settlements, in Cambodia's ancient hydraulic cities, despite no known interaction. Cultural diffusion cannot explain identical solutions crafted by societies separated by oceans and millennia. Then comes the most disquieting detail. The designs appear unfinished. Platforms lead nowhere. Roads end abruptly in thickets. Entire geometric districts seem planned but never executed, as if the urban blueprint was abandoned mid-construction or as if the builders were interrupted. The official narrative concludes they were merely early agriculturalists experimenting with landscape modification. A phrase that, when whispered among skeptical researchers, feels more like a shield than a truth. If they were truly just subsistence farmers, how did they map the heavens with such astonishing precision? How did they maintain architectural alignment in a flooded rainforest where visibility is nearly zero? And why does their geometric perfection mirror the planning philosophies of civilizations thousands of miles away? The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes. Someone in these forests was following a blueprint, one older than the civilization itself. The air grows colder now, not in temperature, but in atmosphere, as we move north into the Arctic Circle. Number 8 is the Kyalar Ice Ridge Engineers, a civilization whose existence introduces a threat more unsettling than any lost city, the possibility that humanity has risen and fallen in cycles far older than we imagine. In 1937, a Norwegian surveying team recorded an anomaly at the foot of a glacier in northern Svalbard. Beneath a collapsing wall of blue ice, they found an exposed section of interlocking stone blocks. At first, it was dismissed as a natural formation, frozen strata fractured by pressure. But when geologist Marta Helvig returned decades later, she made a discovery that could not be explained away. One of the stones contained a bored cylindrical tunnel just 4 centimeters wide, with drill striations consistent with rotary tools. A single verified piece of physical evidence documented in her 1974 field log. But rotary drilling in the high Arctic before the Bronze Age? Impossible. Or rather, it should have been. More disturbing is the danger implied by the site's placement. These blocks lie at an elevation and latitude that would have been inaccessible to any known human population of the era. The ice shelf was thicker, the winds lethal, the terrain uninhabitable. And yet, someone built there. Someone capable not only of surviving, but engineering. Northern climatologist Eric Janser whispered later, "No prehistoric culture should even be standing there, let alone building with tools we can't account for." As modern scans mapped the glacier over the years, a grim pattern emerged. The blocks formed a curved arc, as though part of a ring-shaped structure crushed by advancing ice. Some researchers fear it may have been circular, perhaps a fortress, a temple, or something entirely different. But whatever it was, the creeping glacial mass consumed it long ago. And here is where fear sets in. If the Kyalar engineers truly existed, then they lived during a climate phase far harsher than conventional models allow. Which means either our timelines are deeply flawed, or these people endured an event, a cataclysm, that reset humanity. The existential risk is not simply that they vanished. It's what their frozen ruins imply. That the world might periodically erase its own civilizations, burying them beneath ice, water, or ash, leaving only fragments to be rediscovered in moments of geological mercy. The tundra keeps its secrets well. As the ice melts year by year, the rest of their story may surface, or unleash something better left entombed. The journey now shifts from the frozen north to the sun-scorched dunes of the empty quarter. Number 7 is the veiled architects of Rub al-Khali, a people known only through fragments uncovered in one of Earth's most hostile deserts. Their existence, whispered by nomadic tribes for generations, was dismissed as myth, until a sandstorm in 1988 revealed what should have been impossible. A British-Saudi expedition recovered a half-buried basalt column rising from the dunes like a blackened bone. Its surface carried markings no one recognized, but the real shock came when a fragment broke away during transport. Inside the basalt was a thin copper alloy rod with a metallurgical signature matching ores from 600 miles away. Our single verified piece of evidence, recorded in the Riyadh Mineralogical Archive. To transport ore across such distances in a desert where caravans struggled even in modern times suggests an organized, resource-rich society. One with roots, logistics, and knowledge that contradict its supposed era by at least 2 millennia. Witness accounts add an eerie layer. Bedouin guide Harith el-Saban described the moment the storm cleared. "The dunes opened like a wound," he said, his voice unsteady, "and the stone was standing there, as if someone had put it back on purpose." Excavation revealed more pillars arranged in a loose arc, each oriented toward a point on the horizon corresponding to the solstice sunset. Sun watchers, perhaps, or desert navigators marking celestial paths. But the real mystery wasn't the architecture, it was the precision. The angles between the pillars differed by only a hair, as though shaped using measurement tools not documented until the Hellenistic period. Scholars attempted to dismiss the site as an abandoned caravanserai or a ceremonial stop along lost trade routes. Yet no pottery, no fire pits, no habitation layers, none of the usual human traces were found. Only pillars, only alignment, only intent. Then came the witness-style detail that researchers still debate. During one night survey, a junior archaeologist reported faint rhythmic impressions beneath the sand, like steps or pulses, though no mechanical source was detected. The desert can play tricks on perception, especially when the wind hums across stone. But the team's sudden decision to suspend excavation raised eyebrows. Why build such structures in a wasteland? Why embed copper inside basalt, a technique requiring heat and pressure beyond the region's known capabilities? The desert swallowed the veiled architects once. It may yet swallow their truths again. We drift now toward the storm-lashed coasts of the North Atlantic. Number 6 is the grey-water navigators of Skellig Var, a people whose existence challenges everything we believe about prehistoric seafaring. Their island, little more than a jagged spine of basalt rising from a restless ocean, was considered too remote, too treacherous, too barren for early settlement. Yet in 2006, an erosion survey revealed a secret the waves had been chiseling toward for centuries. Under a collapsed cliffside, researchers found a stone mooring post containing a rope channel polished smooth by repeated use, our single verified piece of evidence documented in the Irish Marine Heritage Register. The smoothing indicated centuries of docking, not a few expeditions, not accidental visits, but regular maritime activity in a place supposedly untouched by organized sailors for thousands of years. This alone was an impossibility. The nearest population centers of the era lacked the vessel technology to survive the region's brutal tides. Currents here tear wooden ships apart. And yet, someone used this hidden harbor long before history says they could. A whisper from maritime historian Colm Sheridan lingered after the expedition. If they could reach this island, they could reach anywhere. Then came the twist, one that cracked the investigation open. While mapping the cliffside, divers uncovered a second mooring post beneath the waves, perfectly aligned with the first. But the lower post sat at a depth suggesting it was installed before the last major sea level rise, over 6,000 years ago, a time when no culture is believed to have navigated open ocean swells. This revelation wasn't merely anomalous, it was catastrophic to accepted timelines. Who installed the posts? What kind of vessels did they anchor? And why was the harbour engineered in a way that concealed it from passing ships? The stone channel bore microscopic traces of salt-resistant plant oils harvested from species native to Mediterranean climates. That implies trade or contact spanning thousands of miles, centuries earlier than any recognized maritime networks. Researchers attempted to dismiss the deeper post as a geological coincidence, but the carved rope channel, with its unmistakable tool marks, made denial impossible. The truth was anchored in stone, and yet the real twist lay in the seabed itself. Acoustic sonar picked up an unnatural pattern of right-angled depressions further out, a grid-like formation smothered in kelp. Some believe it was a submerged dock. Others insist it's the remains of a breakwater designed to shape the violent currents. But one fact remains unmistakable. Skellig Var was not a refuge. It was a station, a waypoint, a silent checkpoint in a maritime world long erased. Our path turns now toward the heart of the Indian subcontinent, where river mist clings to the ancient plains of Madhya Pradesh. Number 5 is the Saraspuri Resonance Makers, a civilization whose ruins hum, literally hum, with a mystery no one has fully explained. In 1999, a team mapping pre-Vedic settlements detected an acoustic anomaly near a sandstone outcrop. When they approached a narrow cavern opening, they heard a low, wavering tone like a distant flute. Inside, the walls were carved with parallel grooves, delicate, precise, and endless. The real shock came when acoustician Priya Narel measured one groove cluster and found a harmonic ratio matching the 432 Hz scale with less than 0.01 deviation, our single verified piece of evidence preserved in the Delhi Acoustic Archive. But these grooves predate known Indian musical theory by thousands of years, which means someone mastered harmonic resonance long before such knowledge should have existed. As researchers traced deeper into the chamber, the architecture grew stranger. Grooves widened into ribbed alcoves. Alcoves formed chambers. Chambers converged into a central dome. When a voice or instrument sounded within it, the stone responded, echoing back tones that formed complex harmonic patterns, as though the room itself were singing. And this is where the twist tears the narrative sideways. During a late-night test, an intern clapped once inside the dome. The chamber did not echo. Instead, it produced a chord, 3 distinct tones, layered perfectly. The team froze. Chords require intentional tuning, not random geology. But no visible instrument, no mechanism, no airflow structure explained the sound. The chamber behaved like a sculpted instrument or a device. Later, ethnomusicologist Adhir Banerjee whispered in the dark corridor, "Someone understood resonance as physics, not art." The implications are explosive. If the Salisbury resonance makers engineered acoustic chambers capable of self-generating harmonics, they may have possessed an early understanding of vibrational energy. Perhaps for ritual, perhaps for communication, or, if some researchers dare to speculate, something more technological. Local legends speak of the stones that speak truth and corridors that shake the air. But folklore cannot explain precision harmonic tuning in an age before standardized measurement systems. Here lies the uncomfortable prediction. One many scholars refuse to voice publicly. If resonance chambers existed in deep antiquity, our ancestors may have known not only how sound behaves, but how sound can shape matter. Stone cut with vibration, monoliths lifted through frequency, architecture tuned like instruments. Long dismissed as pseudoscience, these theories may no longer be fringe. Not if the Salisbury ruins represent only the first rediscovered node in a forgotten global network. We cross now into the windswept plateaus of Anatolia, where the earth seems to remember more than it reveals. Number 4 is the Gagharan obsidian scribes, an enigmatic culture whose mastery of volcanic glass is so advanced it destabilizes our entire understanding of prehistoric writing. In 2014, a routine excavation near an ancient fault line uncovered a small obsidian shard, razor-thin, mirror-black, and impossibly smooth. At first, it was dismissed as a naturally fractured piece, until a microscopic scan revealed something that punched a hole straight through archaeological certainty. Etched on its surface were microglyphs just 70 microns wide, a single verified piece of evidence catalogued in the Middle Anatolian Micro-Engraving Survey. These glyphs were not scratches, not random fracture patterns, but deliberate symbols, consistent, repeating, and arranged along a baseline. Writing, thousands of years before the earliest Sumerian tablets. The discovery should have ignited global debate. Instead, it was quickly buried in academic addendums and footnotes, as if the shard were a misbehaving outlier, a problem best ignored. For if writing existed this early, then entire frameworks that structure human history collapse. Urbanization timelines, linguistic evolution, record-keeping origins, all of it fractures. A field technician later whispered during a night cataloguing session, "The glyphs are too perfect. Whoever carved them had a steadiness no stone tool can give." The shard led researchers to a nearby ridge where they found a scatter of obsidian flakes arranged in geometric patterns, triangles, arcs, intersecting lines. When mapped, the layout mirrored a star alignment from 9,000 years ago, one only recently reconstructed through astronomical software. How could a prehistoric culture engrave microscopic text and then align mirrors of volcanic glass to the sky? Skeptics proposed that the microglyphs were accidental vibration marks caused by seismic activity, but controlled experiments failed to reproduce anything remotely similar. Others argued the shard was intrusive, dropped by later cultures. Yet radiocarbon dating of adhering organic residue placed it firmly in the pre-pottery Neolithic period. This evidence does more than raise questions. It destabilizes an entire chronological hierarchy. If the Gagharan obsidian scribes possessed even rudimentary written symbols, then the dawn of writing did not begin in Mesopotamia. It began far earlier, in hidden pockets of innovation lost to shifting fault lines and volcanic upheaval. And if these people carved writing into glass, not clay, what other technologies were they experimenting with? What tools shaped symbols invisible to the naked eye? The obsidian glints like a warning. Perhaps history is not a straight line of progress, but a cycle of brilliance, repeatedly buried, shattered, and rediscovered. The trail guides us eastward now into the dense, breathless green of the Malaysian rainforest. Number 3 is the Lantara Skypath Society, a civilization so elusive that even its ruins seem to hide themselves. The canopy is thick, the air wet and unmoving, yet every step deeper into the jungle brings the uncanny feeling that something is listening, waiting. In 1972, botanists surveying an isolated ridge noticed an unusual pattern in the undergrowth. straight lines of vegetation dying in parallel strips. When soil beneath one strip collapsed during a rainstorm, it revealed a buried stone platform, its surface carved with interlocking hexagons. But the true enigma came from a single artifact recovered near the platform. A bronze disc inscribed with an astronomical alignment matching the transit of Venus in 4230 BCE, the verified evidence recorded in the Penang Archaeoastronomy log. No known culture in this region tracked Venus cycles with such precision, not for another 3,000 years. And yet here it was, proof engraved in metal. A quiet statement from astronomer Lala Ikra still lingers in the official audio archive. Someone here mapped the heavens, as though expecting someone, or something, to see their signal. As excavations continued, the platforms multiplied. Some were buried, others covered in vines twisted so tightly they resembled restraints. Many formed elongated paths, their angles aligned not with terrain or rivers, but with astronomical events, solstices, eclipses, conjunctions. It was as if the Lantara built a lattice of sky markers on the ground, a map humanity wasn't meant to walk on but decode. Yet the deeper teams ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Drone footage recorded strange voids in the canopy, perfect circles where the foliage grew unnaturally sparse. Some field members swore they felt watched. Others reported faint metallic ringing at dusk, though no instruments registered sound. The sense of surveillance was not metaphorical. Motion-triggered cameras left overnight captured blurry streaks of light, quick arcs, like reflections from invisible surfaces. While officially dismissed as insects or humidity artifacts, researchers on the ground knew better. Even more unsettling were the burial mounds. Inside, skeletons were found facing upward, necks strained back, eye sockets aligned toward the sky, as though the dead were still following a celestial path long after life ended. Why did the Lantara map the heavens with such urgency? Why bury astronomical disks far from inhabited regions? And why build their sky paths in jungles where sunlight barely penetrates? Unless the paths weren't meant to be seen from Earth. The jungle holds them now, veiling a warning, or an invitation, left by a people who watched the sky with a precision bordering on desperation. Number 2 is the Achaemenid Deep Chamber Society, a civilization buried so far beneath the Earth that their very existence forces us to reinterpret everything we thought we knew about prehistoric engineering. Our descent begins in the rugged mountains of northern Iran, where miners in 1961 breached a hollow space more than 300 meters below the surface, far deeper than any known human occupation layer. At first, they believed they had uncovered a natural cavern, but the air was too still. The walls were too smooth. And then came the discovery that shattered the excavation team's assumptions. A basalt doorway with a lintel cut at a mathematically perfect 90 degrees, our verified evidence documented in the Tehran Geological Archive. No Bronze Age or Neolithic culture had tools capable of shaping basalt this deep underground. And yet, someone did. Someone who carved a chamber with such mechanical precision that its corners still feel unnervingly sharp after millennia. Geologist Farid Noshari later whispered, almost in disbelief, "This chamber wasn't built for shelter, it was built for purpose." As the team progressed, the chamber widened into a series of hexagonal rooms, each intersecting at angles too exact to be natural. But then came the twist that forces us to reinterpret everything from earlier parts of this documentary. Because on one chamber wall, barely visible beneath mineral deposits, was a familiar pattern. A star alignment, identical to the one found among the Gagharan obsidian scribes, discovered thousands of kilometers away and from a completely different era. The same alignment, the same angular spacing, the same astronomical reference. This was no coincidence. This was connection. The glyphs were not identical to the micro-engravings in Anatolia, but the pattern of alignment matched with eerie precision, suggesting that the Achaemenid Deep Chamber Society shared knowledge, or perhaps origins, with a culture we thought existed in total isolation. Suddenly, earlier anomalies, ancient star maps from Ashkelon, geometric cities in the Bolivian lowlands, the sky path lattices of the Lantara, took on a different meaning. These were not isolated sparks of brilliance. They were nodes, points on a forgotten network that once spanned continents. Deeper inside the chamber, a single basalt column stood at an odd angle, as though deliberately misaligned. But when researchers triangulated its orientation, they found it pointed to a location outside the mountain, toward a peak associated with magnetic anomalies. Was it a message? A marker? Or a warning? The Achaemen left no bodies, no pottery, no tools. only precision where precision shouldn't exist, and alignments linking them to distant cultures that should have been separated by oceans, mountains, and thousands of years. If they were connected, then our global prehistory is not a tapestry of isolated cultures. It is a palimpsest, a rewritten manuscript hiding an earlier unified story. Number 1 is the Vayalis Continuum Builders, a civilization so impossible, so out of place, that even speaking their name in academic circles invites discomfort. For what lies beneath their ruins is not merely history, it is the implication of a world older, more advanced, and more deliberate than any timeline allows. Our final journey begins on a plateau in western Namibia, where shifting winds in 2003 exposed the edge of a structure unlike anything on the African continent. At first it seemed like a simple stone terrace, until researchers realized that each slab was part of a larger design, a colossal mandala etched into the earth at a scale visible only from the sky. But the true revelation came from a single stone core sample taken from the inner ring. The quartz crystals inside were heat-fused at temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees, our verified piece of evidence documented in the Cape Geothermal Analysis Report. No prehistoric culture possessed furnaces capable of reaching such temperatures. No kilns, no rituals, no natural wildfires could account for it. And yet the stone stands, fused into a glass-like curve, as though shaped by energy rather than tools. Archaeochemist Lena Voss whispered during an off-record interview, "This wasn't built, it was manufactured." The mandala stretches outward with breathtaking symmetry, petal-like sectors pointing toward magnetic north, south, east, and west. Some align with equinox sunrise points, others with lunar standstills. And at the very center lies a depression, a shallow, bowl-like concavity, whose purpose remains maddeningly unclear. It was too smooth to be carved, too shallow to be ritualistic, too precise to be accidental. Then came the discovery that changed everything. When researchers overlaid the Vayalis pattern with the star alignments found in the Achaemenid Deep Chamber Society from Iran, they matched, not just in shape, but in orientation. When adjusted for precession, they matched the microglyph alignments of the Karahan obsidian scribes. And when expanded outward, they revealed geometric relationships resonant with the Lantara sky paths of Malaysia. This was no isolated wonder. This was the keystone. The Vayalis structure acted like a hub, a geometric Rosetta Stone linking every anomaly across continents and millennia. And the fused quartz at its core suggests forces far beyond simple astronomy or ritual. Some propose seismic energy focus. Others whisper about acoustic power networks, resonant with the Salisbury chambers. A few, quietly, suspect something even stranger. A global system built not for worship, but for calibration. The more we study the continuum builders, the more overwhelming the scope becomes. Their craftsmanship does not merely exceed their era, it eclipses entire epochs. This is not just a lost civilization. It is an entire worldview, an entire scientific paradigm erased from memory, leaving behind monuments that refuse to be forgotten. And as the desert winds howl across their glass-smooth stones, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. We may not be the first advanced civilization on Earth, only the latest to rise, and the next to be forgotten. Across deserts, jungles, mountains, and frozen thresholds, we have followed the faint, fractured echoes of civilizations that should never have existed, yet undeniably did. Their ruins challenge us, unsettle us, and whisper of a world far more ancient and interconnected than our textbooks admit. And as we step back from these discoveries, one question lingers like a shadow at the edge of the map. What else lies waiting beneath soil, ice, and ocean, quietly rewriting the story of us? More mysteries will surface. More anomalies will slip through the cracks of accepted history. And when they do, we will be here, examining the impossible, the forgotten, the forbidden. If you felt that shiver of curiosity, that pull toward the unknown, remember to stay with us. There are countless secrets still out there, and together, we will uncover them, one impossible clue at a time. If you want more mysteries like this, make sure you're subscribed.